The Sonic games aren't something I've played much of. While I've seen plenty of Let's Plays, the most experience I have with the series firsthand is with Sonic Generations and Colors. Gameplay-wise, they're fun enough, but not something I'm super into. Then we got the announcement that the Sonic series would be going open world with their new game, Sonic Frontiers, and this actually caught my interest. If done right, it sounded like something I might actually really like, and while the initial IGN gameplay reveal didn't impress me, later showings did the job much better. The high-speed open-world platforming and combat actually looked pretty fun and seemed like exactly my thing. So after playing it for the first time for this video, I gotta say I had a really great time with Sonic Frontiers, and to be honest, it actually managed to finally make me a Sonic fan. The story of Sonic Frontiers starts off really simple. The Chaos Emeralds flew off to the Starfall Islands, and Sonic, Amy, and Tails go to investigate why, but they end up getting separated after a strange portal swallows the team. Sonic spat out in a weird cyberspace, but is ultimately fine. His friends, though, are all trapped in a weird limbo of being in both the real world and cyberspace at the same time. So the goal is to not only figure out what the deal with the Chaos Emeralds and this island is, but to also get Sonic's friends out of their ghostly state by destroying these giant robots called the Titans. Making things more complicated is the introduction of Sage, an AI created by Dr. Eggman who has some influence over the Titans, and seems to know a lot more than she's willing to tell Sonic. It's a simple enough setup, but honestly, the story turned out to be way better than I was expecting, because the writing for all of the characters was actually really good. Sonic's friends all get some really nice character development, and there were a few scenes that genuinely caught me off guard with just how good they were. Even Sage and Dr. Eggman are really well written, with Sage basically being Eggman's daughter, and honestly, it's a really nice bit of characterization for Mr. Robotnik. The story was a surprising highlight for me, and honestly, I gotta give credit to the game's writer Ian Flynn. He did a great job at adding some nice depth to our main cast, and even some cool bits of world building. But this is a Sonic game. It's great that the story's good, but that's not why you're here at all, and like I said in the intro, the open world style and the new gameplay elements are really fun. This time around, instead of the normal level-by-level structure, you have bigger, more open areas to explore and run around in, and there's plenty to do here. Each island has plenty of platforming challenges you can do for collectibles, and small puzzle missions that fill up parts of the map when completed and give you seeds of power or defense. Starting with the former, this was really good, and it felt like a perfect blend of speed and platforming. It controlled great, and honestly, I prefer this kind of level design over the previous Boost games. You can also get memory tokens and the previously mentioned seeds of power or defense for doing these, but more on that last one a bit later. The memory tokens, though, are for unlocking both optional and required cutscenes with your semi-digitized friends, and these are pretty easy to come across. Aside from platforming, you can also get them from side-looping some treasure spots, and even beating enemies. As for the puzzle missions, though, I really liked how many of these there were. They're pretty short and make for a fun little break between the more fast-paced gameplay. The only ones I didn't like were the ones with the ball and hoops. Maybe it's just me, but these were really annoying to control since I constantly had trouble actually getting the ball into the hoops. I will say though, despite all of that, I do feel the actual islands could use a bit more of an artistic flair to them. 3 of the 5 islands are all just forest areas, with only 2 of the islands feeling that unique. Moving on though, one of the biggest new additions to Frontiers though is its more in-depth combat. In past game, you just homing attacked the enemy, and that was that, but here you have more options available to you. Using the game's skill tree, you can unlock a whole host of new abilities to fight enemies with, and honestly, I really liked combat as a whole. It's nothing too complicated, but I don't think it's more than what it needed to be. In terms of enemy variety, it's nothing too crazy. For the most part, it's just these basic robot dudes and eventually these annoying dog robots you have to parry, but the game's various mini-bosses offer a bit more variety. Dotting each island are a few different Guardian robots that drop collectibles called portal gears when you defeat them, and for the most part I really liked them. The only one I really didn't like was Ares Island's Shark Guardian for how long it takes to actually kill them thanks to its dumb method of exposing it. Basically, you have to hold on to its tail and properly do a few QuickTime events for about 20 to 30 seconds just to get an opportunity to hit them. If you don't do enough damage fast enough though, you'll have to repeat the whole cycle again. And on that note, let's talk about another new addition to the gameplay, Sonic's stats. Sonic has 4 different stats he can level up: speed, ring count, attack, and defense. The attack and defense stats can be strengthened by giving enough of the seeds of power and defense to Hermit Coco. The speed and ring count work differently though. These are leveled up by finding enough of the island's residents, the Coco, and bringing them to Elder Coco. The problem here though is how abysmally slow it is. Here's the thing, your attack and defense level up together, and fully when you give seeds to the hermit. Speed and ring count, on the other hand, is leveled up slowly and one at a time. Like, I can understand why you'd want the player to have a choice given that they share the same resource pool, but it would have been a much better idea to let the player choose how many levels they want to put into one stat instead of one level at a time. That being said though, now's about time we get into some of the more interesting aspects of the game, like the cyberspace levels, the bosses, and much to my surprise, Big the Cat. Sonic Frontiers' gameplay loop involves you getting 6 of the 7 Chaos Emeralds on an island and eventually getting the last emerald during your fight with the island's Titan. To get the initial 6 emeralds though, you'll have to get the Chaos Vault keys that can be obtained in the game's cyberspace levels, and honestly, I ain't too crazy about these. I'm not even remotely sure what happened here to cause this problem, but for some reason the cyberspace levels feel completely different to control compared to the open world. Sonic just feels really hard to properly steer at high speeds in the 3D levels. There will be points where I have to intentionally slow down to properly make some turns because I can't drift properly. In both the 2D and 3D levels, the jump feels weirdly off. Like, he's weirdly floaty, and it kinda made it hard to properly platform at points. I didn't personally enjoy doing these, but I can see why other people might enjoy them, since they do have some fun challenges to complete for more vault keys, and from what I hear, not everyone has the same issue with the cyberspace controls that I do. That being said though, if you're like me and you don't like doing them, you thankfully don't have to. Which brings us to the man himself, Big the Cat. Thanks to his fishing minigame, Big absolutely breaks this game's structure and balance in a way I really like. Dotted around the islands are purple coins you can collect to fish with Big, and for each fish you catch, you get some tokens you can turn in for seeds, cocoa, memory tokens, and even vault keys. And yes, you can buy enough of them to where you don't have to do any of the cyberspace levels. This gives some nice freedom for the player. Don't want to do certain things? Then you don't have to, and honestly, it's not too hard to get both purple coins and fishing tokens. Heck, for as visually annoying as the game's Starfall events are, you can easily get hundreds of purple coins with them. And as for the fishing tokens, the prices for items are so cheap it won't take much to max out on keys or memory tokens. The only weird thing about these is the egg memos. These are logs from Eggman detailing his time in cyberspace, and they even give some more context for how he developed his relationship with Sage. The thing that weirds me out about this is why Big even has these. I mean, you can ask the same question for most things he sells, but why does he have Eggman's logs? I don't know, I just think it would have made more sense to have these be secret collectibles in the overworld. By far my favorite and what might be the best aspect of the game though is easily the Titan fights. In fact, I distinctly remember beating the first boss and that being the moment it finally clicked with me just how much I liked this game. Honestly, I don't think I've ever had a first boss in a game be this hype-inducing before. Like the second Giganto's theme, Undefeatable, started playing, I was already on board, but then the actual fight started. Like, sure, it's not hard since it boils down to just beating the crap out of them until they die since they can't physically injure you, but it feels incredible. Flying around and punching the lights out of a thing a few hundred times your size is a great feeling, and the themes for each Titan is really good across the board. Giganto's theme might be my personal favorite in the game, but the second boss, Wyvern, has my favorite fight in the game. He has the best lead up to his emerald, and I love how you fight him across the entire island. Here's to hoping future games can keep the bosses at the same levels of awesome the Titans are, because these were a joy to fight for me. Sonic Frontiers isn't perfect. Its environments could definitely look a bit more visually interesting, and at least for me, the cyberspace levels could really use some better controls. Heck, I didn't even touch on the game's pop-in problem or even one or two spoilery issues I have with the game. But as someone who wasn't that into the previous games, I had a really great time with this. The platforming was really fun, and I loved the writing for the characters. Honestly, I think there's a lot of potential for future games in the series if they improve and expand on what they did here. And honestly, knowing how rough things have been for the Blue Blur, I think creating this much hope for something truly amazing going forward is the best thing this game could have done for the series besides actually achieving it. And with that being said, thank you all for watching, like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video, and I hope you have a nice day.